Writing a manual personalized email campaign can be incredibly annoying, whether it's researching the prospect and finding something notable about them or having to use that research to then write an email personalized about them. It can take a ton of time and be incredibly tedious to write manual emails, which is why in this video, I'm going to show you how to automate your personalized email campaign completely and allow AI and a ton of other cool technologies to do all of the work for you. In this video, I'm going to walk through an example that I built out of a completely automated personalized email campaign, and I'm going to show you in that example how you can do it for your own campaigns. So let's get into it. All right, so as a quick background, I had a friend that reached out to me who worked in commercial real estate, and he was really tired of having to write manual emails out to every single company he reached out to in the commercial real estate space. They also weren't even personalized. He would just personalize like the first name and the company name and then maybe one other thing, and it was still taking him a ton of time to send out these emails for pretty much no apparent reason. So he reached out to me and said, hey, is there a way to make this easier? And I said, absolutely, let's do it right now. And so in this example, I just built this out for him to kind of show him the possibilities of automating campaigns in Clay. And hopefully this video is something you can use a lot of information to apply to your own campaigns. So the first thing you have to do when you're creating a personalized email campaign is to write out the actual copy. In order to know what good copy to write, you of course have to know what sort of data you can get. Luckily with Clay, it's pretty much anything that's publicly available on the internet about a company. So I highly recommend going into the Enrich Data tab here in Clay and just scrolling through some of the different data points you can find. After that, it is time to write the copy. So I am in Instantly right now, which is the way in which you actually send these emails out. And I have a one-step campaign, just as an example, with a couple different personalizations that you can use in the copy. So I'm going to read through the campaign really quickly, and then I'm going to show you how I built it out in Clay. And then finally, I'm going to let you see what the email actually looks like in action. Hey, first name, I noticed that company name is located in location response. I was wondering if you checked market prices for commercial space recently, asking because you might be paying more than you need to. We help NYC-based businesses like you determine if there are any ways you can save costs at your current space so you can go back to focusing on, and then the company's strengths. Normalized restaurant is in your area. Any interest in a dinner on me to talk about it? And then from Nick. So how did I actually build out these variables? Because you can see here that there's a bunch of fancy personalization in this email, and it's pretty difficult to do at scale, you would think. Like, how do you automate this? So I'm going to walk you through that now. So the first thing that you do when you go into Clay is you want to click New Table and go down to Find Companies from LinkedIn. This is where you can put all of the criteria needed to find your target audience into Clay and then import those companies into a table. So for this example, I believe I just used fintech companies that are located in New York City that have a certain employee range. So I went to the description keywords and put in finance, and then I went and selected the amount of employees that I wanted, and then I went down to location and selected New York City. So after it was done, I just clicked load in a table, and it loaded all of this information about the company. So without having to do anything, I was able to find the name of the company, the description, the industry that they reside in, how many employees they have, the type of company, the location, the country, the domain, and the LinkedIn URL. All of this was absolutely free for me to find, and it's incredibly helpful for when I'm starting to build out these personalizations within Clay. You can see that this is pretty much a spreadsheet format. So the way in which it works is each company or person is in a row, and you run these integrations, and it applies that data finding technique every single prospect in the row. So I imported 233 companies that reside in New York in financial services or has some sort of financial value prop, and I imported them into this table. So next what I had to do was I wanted to enrich the company. Enriching a company in Clay is pretty much finding a bunch more data points about the company that you can then use in personalizations. In order to do any of these enrichments, you click on Enrich Data, and then you click just put in Enrich Company, and you'll see here that it pops up really quickly. It's one of the most popular enrichments in Clay. From there, all I had to do was throw in the LinkedIn URL, which of course Clay already gave me, and click Run. And when you click on the cell, you can see now we have a ton of different pieces of information about this company, whether it's their website, their specialties, how many employees they have, how many followers they have, their description, a million different things that we can use. So in order to actually do the next step of this, I had to enrich the company, because in the next integration, what I wanted to do here was find the office address of the company. So I used a tool in Clay called Claygen, and this is one of the most advanced tools in the product. It pretty much allows you to scrape information programmatically from the web about pretty much anything you want in a company. So in this case, I wanted to find the address of their New York City office. And so all I did was I went to Enrich Data and I typed in Claygen, and you can see it pops up right here. Then when I go into the integration, you can see that a prompt pops up right here. And this is pretty much what you're asking Claygen to do. It's just like using ChatGPT, but within Clay itself. So what I said was figure out whether the company name, and then here's their LinkedIn URL, currently has offices in New York City. Search anywhere on the internet necessary to get this information. Output the office address if they do have an office and no if they don't. And if there is not a specific street name in the address found, then print no. So it actually just ended up printing New York City instead of saying no, which is actually pretty convenient for me when I look back on it, because it's allowed me to personalize the email regardless of if I can find their address or not. So some companies likely just don't have public addresses to their offices on the internet. For the ones that do, it was able to find the address exactly on where the company is located. This is incredibly helpful for us because we're now able to reference it in this copy right here in our little location response. Next, you can see in this email copy that we also had a personalization on what the company does. So you can go back to focusing on whatever it is that the company does. So we wanted to then find in a short blurb what the company does and then put it into our email prompt. This allows us to complete the personalization relatively easily. So we use an OpenAI prompt, which is pretty much just ChatGPT, but being applied to every one of these companies all at once. And in the column, I just said, using the company description, tell me one thing that the company name likely does very well for their customers. Format your answer as an action. For example, if the company is good at building sandcastles, say building sandcastles. And here is the description. And I fed the company description into this section right here. And so after I ran it, you can see that it did a great job of very quickly summarizing what the company does, whether it's designing diversified letters of credit, highlighting trailblazing chefs of color, teaching financial literacy, investing in and incubating startups across stages and sectors. The point is, it was able to fill this in incredibly well given the parameters that I fed into ChatGPT. You can see here though that it's uppercase in the beginning of each one of these sentences. And you could ask ChatGPT to fix this, but instead I decided to do a more reliable way and a free way, which is called a formula within Clay. To find a formula, you just go to add column and click formula. And what this does is allows you to augment text in Clay. So you can extract things out of text. You can add conditionals based on certain parameters in Clay to output some sort of text to you, or you can edit text. So in this case, we're going to be editing text in the output. And what we're doing is we're pretty much just feeding this into our formula. And we're saying, make the entire thing lowercase. So all I did in the little AI section was say, make this response lowercase and without any quotations or punctuation. So it was able to reliably pop out the exact output we needed. The reason we needed this is because when we're fitting it into the sentence, you can't have it start uppercase or it seems like a robot wrote it. It doesn't make any sense. Why would that be uppercase in the middle of a sentence? Next, I realized that the location that popped out in this initial output was really long. If we put this in an email, it would look really ridiculous. Being like, hey, I noticed that you were on 30 Broad Street, 14th floor, New York City, New York, US. It seems like a robot wrote it. We don't want to make it seem like a robot wrote our email. So instead, what I decided to do was use another OpenAI integration to make this sound normal. So instead of popping out this entire lengthy address, all we have is 30 Broad Street, 3009 Broadway, 405 Lexington Avenue, New York City. It makes it sound a lot more casual, and when you're actually reading it in an email, it seems like a person could have actually written it instead of just pasting the address in there without any edits. All right, so now we have figured out this personalization, and this personalization. But we need one more, which is the restaurant in their area. So I wanted to, in this case, as my offer in the email, offer them a free dinner to talk about this business opportunity, but ideally it allows them to go to a fancy restaurant without having to pay anything. So I thought it was a pretty good offer for an in-person local campaign. So what I did next was I used a Yelp integration within Clay that allows you to find businesses near you. When you go into the query, it asks you for the location, which is essentially where you're going to be searching this. So you can put in a city like San Francisco, or you can put in an address. In this case, we actually put in the address of the office. So this is actually the address of the office of the company. Of course, sometimes you'll just have New York City. And for the search query, I just did something simple like dinner. If you're sending out a real campaign, maybe I'd make it a little more specific to make sure you're not sending them to McDonald's. But regardless, it was New York City. I figured it would find the right dinner place for me. And it did. So you can see here that it was able to find 5 businesses near the actual office address of the prospect we were reaching out to, and it popped it out right here. It found 5 businesses. I just went to the first one down here and popped out the name of the company. And from there, all I did was use Clay's normalized company name integration to make the company sound normal. So in this case, we don't want DeAndrea Greenwich Village. It doesn't sound very natural. So we just wanted to remove it and create this. And this integration is actually completely free within Clay. All right, so we have done all the personalizations required in order to send this email campaign. However, we don't have anybody to actually email. All we have is company names, which doesn't really do us much good because we're using an email campaign here. So we have to create what's called a people table. How to create a people table in Clay is just to go to new table, find people from LinkedIn, and then go to this table section in the companies area. From there, we would just put in our CRE table, and you can see that when we go to the default view, it has all of our companies pop up here. From there, we just throw in the job title we're looking for. So it can be founder, co-founder, vice president, president, CEO. And we preview the people, you'll see that a certain amount of people pop up that fit those job titles that work at the companies that we were just looking at. So I've already done this. in this table right here. And all I had to do now was import all the information from that company into our clay table, which is done actually automatically. So very, very easy. Then I had to use a formula to find their first and last name. Also quite easy. Just told the formula, extract the first word of their name, extract the words after the first word of their name, and we were able to get both of those. And from there, all we had to do was find their work email. So what I did there was I clicked enrich data, and then I just typed in work email, and you'll see that this little waterfall section pops up right here. A waterfall is pretty much using a bunch of different integrations at once in order to find a certain data point. So in this case, we have Prospeo, Drop Contact, Datagma. You go down the list and it tries one at a time. So first Prospeo tries to find an email. If it can't find it, it then goes to Drop Contact. If it doesn't find it there, it goes to Datagma, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All it requires is a full name and the company domain. And then it validates the emails to make sure you can actually send to them, which is very important for deliverability. After that, it was able to find the emails of almost all of the people we wanted to reach out to. So we have all these work emails now aggregated into one column. From there, all I had to do was normalize the company name. So when we mentioned it in an email, it didn't seem ridiculous. After that, all we had to do from there was go ahead and download this table as a CSV. So you just click here and you download the view as a CSV. From there, we go back into Instantly. We click add new. You can see a campaign. We'll put test here and continue. And when you add leads, you just import that CSV into this little section right here. So I've already done this, obviously. And so if we go into the campaign, we can actually go check out what this campaign looks like. So I've already read this out to you, but let's see what the preview looks like. Hey James, I noticed that Numerics is located in 99 Park Avenue. I was wondering if you checked market prices for commercial space recently, asking because you might be paying more than you need to. We help NYC-based businesses like you determine if there are any ways you can save costs on your current space so you can go back to focusing on providing real-time intelligence capabilities for trading and risk management. Park Avenue Tavern is in your area. Any interest in a dinner, I'll meet to talk about it. So now we have a fully personalized campaign, and we can do this for every single prospect in the list automatically once you upload your leads to the campaign. This is an incredibly efficient way to send out cold emails, far more than manually writing all of these out. You just as easily have an effective cold email campaign by automating it in Clay. And of course, if you need any help with this or you want them built out for yourself, I have an agency that does Clay for you, so you can not even worry about the technical side of these campaigns and just reap all the benefits of an effective, personalized, automated cold email campaign that can send you thousands of emails in a day as opposed to 50 or 100. All right, and that is it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if it provided you any value, a subscribe and like would be appreciated. If you don't want to build out clay tables yourself and you much rather have someone like me do it, then feel free to click the link below and hit us up. I hope this was valuable to you, and happy prospecting.